Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cut to the Chase Sports Podcast, where we bring unique insight and analysis behind your favorite teams at the collegiate and professional levels. I'm your host, Chase Yantz, and today we've got a special guest on the program. You know, offensive linemen need more love than what they already have, all right? And we've got center Jared Thomas on the show. Jared, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Chase. You already got me for life because you led with the offensive line needing more love, and you are exactly right. So whatever you need, I got you, man. Just for the offensive line love to kick off the show. But thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to dive into this thing with you.
Man, I appreciate taking the time out of your day, but again, I mean, I will say I'm a Bengals fan, so offensive line goes a long way, especially for having a quarterback like Burrow. But that's another time and another episode. But man, so you're from Indianapolis, born in Indy, went to Cathedral High School. What really sets Cathedral apart from everybody else? Because you guys just win, no matter what. That's just what it is.
I mean, that's really what it is. Everyone loves a winner until the winners win too much, and then they're ready to see someone else. And I think we see that at every level of every sport. You know, you take the NBA Finals, for instance, just because we're in the thick of that. You know, we're so used to seeing the Lakers historically, the Celtics historically with the run that they've had the last couple of years, the Nuggets, you know, were a team that got talked about in that conversation for so long. And then you have two teams that haven't really been there. The Pacers, it's been 25 years. And I mean, back then, the NBA looked completely different. The Thunder were there back in 2012, and that team looked completely different there. So to have two different stories in two different markets, once again, it's almost like it's refreshing to watch for everyone in the NBA world because you just don't know what to expect. And I would say it's pretty similar to Cathedral, but just on the inverse side, like all I knew at Cathedral when I was there was winning. But, you know, oftentimes people get it misconstrued that, oh, all you guys do is this and all you do is that. But really, it's everything that your experience is. Like, it's academics. It's, you know, how you conduct yourself in the hallways. It's, you know, what you do outside of sports to prepare yourself. It's all of those things. So being a college preparatory institution, it really prepared you for the next level. And whether you were just going to be a student or a student athlete. But the byproduct of that is I was fortunate enough to be a part of some really good teams, basketball and football. And so you got accustomed to winning and what it took to win. And so anything else just feels like a failure, which I think is a great thing. And it teaches you so many lessons in the process. So you are absolutely correct. The Fighting Irish know how to win. And we've definitely done it since the beginning of time.
I will mention this, and we'll talk about basketball in a second, but so I actually got a chance to call a Cathedral basketball game this year. They came down to Cincinnati to play at the Cintas Center in the Holiday Hoops Classic. They played Princeton High School down here. And I was like, yeah, I think Cathedral as a whole, just they take things, they have a different approach or a more dialed in approach when it comes to athletics compared to some of these other schools, not just in Indianapolis, but, you know, just throughout the Midwest in that regard. And, you know, just having that tie. And I mean, when I was looking at your stuff saying Cathedral High School, I was like, hold on, I've seen these guys before. I've, you know, maybe not on the football field, heard a lot about on the football field, but man, so when you were playing football at Cathedral, did you always play center or were you moving around a little bit? Was left tackle the main thing? What was the look on the offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, I think high school sports look different now, and I'm kind of going a longer way to get to, you know, the sweet spot of my point. But when I was coming up and playing high school football, to play as a young guy was borderline unheard of. Like, that just wasn't happening. You know, you waited until you were a junior, and if you were special enough, you played earlier. And for me, I don't think I was special enough. I just think I had a coach that believed in me and said, hey, you need to be out there as a young guy. And to come into Cathedral and play offensive line as a sophomore, I played left tackle over a senior. That was like, that meant the world to me because I knew just what I had heard in my first year because I didn't pick up this football thing until I got to high school. So to be raw and just be almost green in the whole space my freshman year to then flip the whole conversation on its head and be starting the next year was just like, didn't really see this coming. But, you know, when you hear so much about the history and, you know, the seniority that sometimes comes with the program, to be one of those guys to come through, they must have saw something in you. And that's just something that I didn't take lightly. And I had to put in a ton of work outside of what was required of me and us as a team in order to not just perform, but overperform what they expected of me, because the expectation is already high. But I'm like, now I have even loftier expectations, because now I want to go play college football. I want to go play, at the next level. So that process starts now. And I really took it serious. And what you'll find is you don't always beat the best competition, especially at Cathedral. We always played Cincinnati Moeller, Cincinnati St. Xavier, Louisville Trinity. We even went up to Sacred Heart Griffin in Springfield, Illinois one time to play them. You're playing quality competition week in and week out. And it's really, I go back to the college preparatory institution, it prepares you for when you get to the Big Ten. Because say what you want about the Big Ten, it's going to be a physical game every single week, no matter who you play. And so it was really just kind of like a precursor to what to expect when I got to the Big Ten, and forever grateful for it. Something that I really hold on to. And I cherish the moment when I get to tell that story, because even looking back on it now, it's normal for guys to play early. Back then it was rare. So to be part of some rare air is pretty cool.
And you already know the old saying, competition breeds success, and you're playing against those great teams. It's like, all right, like if you're up and ready for the challenge, it's going to get better and better as time goes on. And you talked about, how you went to Northwestern. We'll save that question for just a moment. Was basketball the first true love? So you talked about how football, you didn't really pick it up until high school. Basketball, that was it's Indiana. All right. It's basketball.
100%.
It's the two mergers. It's
yeah. In eighth grade, in middle school, as a young kid, I was training. My dad had the foresight to train me as a guard. So with my personal trainer, and I say personal, that sounds a lot more intricate than what it really was. But he was just like, hey, my parents were like, we got to get you in some training, because they understood the value in having some type of development that they couldn't give me. And so I was with my trainer, and I'm doing guard drills, ball handling, any type of dribble combos into jump shots, step backs, threes. Like that was really much in my bag, and it really still is in my bag. So if anyone ever got it misconstrued, like basketball will always be number one, because that's what I love. But, football pays the bills, but basketball was 100%, my love. I actually wanted to quit football at one point in time, or actually wanted to quit basketball at one point in time, because I felt like it wasn't going to get me to where I ultimately wanted to get to, which was the professional level, just because I didn't grow anymore. And it's kind of crazy, because I love it so much that I honestly don't know if I'd be able to live with myself thinking, had I quit earlier than I was supposed to. And so the fact that, my parents were on me to continue down that path and see it through all the way through my senior year of high school, it's like I'm forever grateful for that. So when I'm watching, if I'm sitting down on the couch watching television and I'm watching whatever show it is, any type of countdown or any type of first take or any type of NBA Today, and I'm watching as an analyst, like I'm really locked in when it comes to basketball, because I lived that life and I understand what it took. And so when we talk about the NBA players and who's the greatest and blah, 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 I look at it from a different lens. I look at it like, what has this guy done in the offseason to separate himself for those moments when they come in the playoffs? And I think that's what it really has come down to for me, is like basketball has always been number one, obviously in 49 other states. It's different, but here in Indiana, it's more than just basketball. So I love it. So you're spot on for that question, because I thought that was going to be the path, but then I didn't grow anymore. So, such is life.
Yeah, man, it's how it goes sometimes. Again, I actually got a chance to play some Indiana basketball for about a year and a half over at Division III Earlham College. It's barely in Indiana, but but yeah, I mean, got a chance to do that. And even, I mean, regardless of what level it is, basketball in the state of Indiana, as you can see right now at the highest level, it's just different. Nobody, you can't, it's hard to even explain, even as yourself being literally from the center point of the state, Indianapolis. It's tough to explain what it means.
But think about it like this. I was, the UFL is based in Texas. So we're down in Texas for, 4 or 5 months. Like if you go to Texas, I think it's hard to see anything but a pickup truck. Like when you go to Texas, there is nothing but pickup trucks. They're elevated, the big rigs, like all of that is part of Texas. It's the same thing in Indiana, with a basketball rim being in someone's driveway. You go through countryside Indiana, there's going to be a house on a farm, and you're going to see the farmland, but you're also going to see that backboard pinned to the side of someone's house or pinned to someone's garage. Like that, I mean, to go outside and play, you were going outside to get buckets. You know what I mean? You weren't going outside to do anything else. So it definitely is just different. And I think the history here is so rich in it that, when we have moments to really show the rest of the country and the world how we get down in the state, I think it's pretty cool.
It definitely is. And again, seeing what the Pacers are doing right now and having those couple home games coming up. But man, so talking about Northwestern, so you end up playing Big Ten football, smash mouth football, Midwest football, cut your teeth and nails, whatever, physicality. I love seeing it. We're two Midwest guys. We love that type of football. But man,
absolutely,
the recruiting process, how did you get to Northwestern?
It was super simple to me looking back. But at the time, all I was trying to do was go to somewhere that academically it would surpass anything I accomplished on the football field. I wanted to go somewhere where I could compete in a high-level conference, because if you go somewhere where you're the only one dominating, yes, you'll be recognized, but were you really challenged? Did everything just come to you, or did you go out and earn it? So I was really all about that. And then number 3, I wanted to be close to home to be in a position for my family to come watch me play. And even when I wasn't playing, they were at pretty much every home game. And if they weren't at every home game, someone, from my family was in the house representing. And that means the world to me, just because growing up, all I knew was family. We take family very seriously, and it's not something that I overlook whatsoever. So to be in a position to make a decision that they can be in the stands, it meant a lot, because even playing professionally with work schedules and all this other stuff, it's not always feasible for them to come watch me play. But, being in college, they did and had that opportunity. So that was pretty cool. So it really came down to those 3. But if I go back to the first one, the academic side of things, I really didn't know what Northwestern had in store when it came to the journalism program. I knew that I wanted to get in TV at some point in time, but I was just naive in understanding like some of the notable alums that have come out of Northwestern, especially in Medill. And when it was really brought to my attention, I was sat down by a family friend, and he said, hey, if this is your criteria that you're going for, I don't think there's a better place that you're looking for that's going to fulfill your ultimate goals. And when he sat me down and I thought about all the conversations that were had up to that point, I said, this is the place that I need to go. This is the place that I want to go. And what you'll find when you go to certain places, obviously the given is for the sport. Like, you're going to go there to compete. You're going to go there and be part of that sports program. But it ultimately comes down to some other factors of why you go to that school. If they don't have your major, if they don't have a path for you to really succeed when you're done playing football or whatever sports you're playing, then that's not the school for you, because oftentimes going there for just football isn't good enough, because your coach that recruits you could be there when you get there and gone the next year. You don't know. So if what got you there is football, that doesn't always provide the best experience. Sometimes you have to, not sometimes, but you have to pick a school that fulfills all of those boxes, so you're not getting jolted when, the realities of college football start to hit you.
I honestly don't think I could have heard that answer any better. Like, I mean, again, it's like you have to take everything into account. But, with we talking about, with college football now with the NIL, you didn't have to really deal with that stuff when you played, even just a couple of years back. And, coaches moving around, moving up, players going to different schools, money involved. That I know that's a interesting conversation that we had another time, but it's, it's definitely a lot. And I do want to talk about the Northwestern's journalism program that you got into. I mean, like, what did you learn from that on the student side of things, and how has that really helped you so far? And we'll mention more football stuff, because trust me, we're not done with that. But from the academic side of things, how did that really help you in trying to mold you into the person that you are today and trying to become later on down the road?
Absolutely. First of all, I mean, this podcast is legit. We got the ticker, like, this is the ESPN interview. We got the cut to the chase banner. I mean, this is a real deal. Once again, I appreciate you having me on. But honestly, I talk about the sitting down experience with the family friend and seeing, okay, this is where the place I need to be. Then the wheel started turning. Like, from a young age, I don't know if it was God. I'm a man of faith. I don't know if it was him. I don't know if it was, being around the right people growing up. But I just knew, I made a decision at a young age. Like, I'm going to play the sport. I thought it was basketball. It turned out to be football. As long as possible, I want to play professionally. And then after that, it's like, what else is there to really do? Like, I love sports that much. Like, I want to be around them. So how do I think about other ways to be involved with sports in a professional manner? Oh, I can talk about them. So for a while, it was like, I want to have my own talk show. And Then I started thinking when I committed to Northwestern, I'm like, okay, I see the landscape when we just talk about a TV segment. Like if we take Malika Andrews and Stephen A. Smith and Kendrick Perkins and Richard Jefferson, Stephen A. didn't play at a high level. Malika didn't play in the WNBA. Like those are the people that have the academia side of it. Then you flip over to Kendrick and you have Richard Jefferson. Well, they didn't go to journalism school. They went and they played basketball at the highest level, but then they transitioned into TV. So I said, okay, why can't I have the best of both worlds? Why can't I go to journalism school, get the academia, but then also pursue football at the highest level and then see where it gets me at the end of the day? Now, what it was originally thought to be was the NFL. That story's still being written, but COVID happens, things look different, but I'm still playing professionally. So to still have a platform of people understanding what the UFL is, what professional football looks like other than the NFL, I'm still getting the best of both worlds. So now when I step into any type of studio, when I step onto any type of game reel, it's like I can speak X's and O's when it comes to executing as a journalist, but I can also speak to what's going on in the locker room. I can also speak to what's going on as a player and how you have to take care of your body during the off season, how you have to nurture it with rest in the off season, how that has to kind of transfer into the season. Like, yes, you're going during the season, but there's times that you have to rest as well. Like all of those things are so important when I was thinking about back then where I wanted to eventually go. And once I had that in mind, I just started chasing it. And the journalism school, I actually thought about going to the master's school, or I thought about going to the post-grad schooling as well for Medill. But, you know, I was urged, hey, if you don't aspire to teach, then it's really not necessary to get that master's degree. You pretty much did everything the master's program is going to do in your 4 years. So it showed me in undergrad, like the value of coming up with a creative story, finding out a way to execute it, finding out a way to shoot your own video, finding out a way to have that 3 different, you know, where we have the close-up angle, we have the kind of in the middle angle, and then the far away, and how to layer them and not to have them back to back. And when I'm doing a story, making sure you get at the beginning of your story somebody to say their name and how to spell it correctly and what the correct pronunciation is. Like all of those little things, when you talk about journalism as a whole, that's what I learned in journalism school and how to go about it and how to produce your own stuff. And then to get into the sports world, you're telling me I get to talk about sports in a journalistic way, and I also play what they're talking about. I mean, it's really like the best of both worlds, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
I mean, it's incredible because you think about it, like and obviously you're still playing sports, but it's like when you take that step back and you're not playing anymore, or in the situation when you're calling a game, like you're basically doing a bunch of, you're researching, doing your homework, and it's like you're studying for an open note test, but it gives you something to really keep your mind, in shape, whether it, be like just keeping your mind up to speed and sharp. And it really keeps you at a competitive edge when you're trying to go out there and give the best content possible. And it can drive you longer and longer, and it can give you more energy as time goes on. But man, it's like it is great to know that there are professors out there that are helping you, but also at the same time, you got to go out there and do the work, and being able to have those opportunities to, see what works, see what doesn't work, and then go back and watch film on yourself. And you already know, watching film in football and stuff, you're trying to see what happened when I tried to pull on this right side and try to get the kick out block. Did the guy crash downhill, or should I get into the spot quicker? Like, it's just stuff like that where you can relate all of the sports stuff into the broadcasting side of things. It's a little different, but if you keep it with that type of tenacity, then who can stop you? Sky's the limit at that point.
And I think the other thing too, when we talk about the professional side of broadcasting, like you enter into these spaces and, the guys that didn't play look at the guys that just walk in because of their playing experience, like, oh, you're only here because you played. And then vice versa, like the guys that, played and say, oh, well, you're only here because you have the academia. Like, I love when I get that type of energy from someone, because when we actually start to talk about my story and they start asking questions, I can almost communicate with them that, no, I know what it's like to be in your shoes. Like, not everyone is going to go play professionally. So like, I do take this craft serious enough that, hey, if I'm like, I'll give this perfect example, and so many people get this misconstrued. Stephen A is such a polarizing figure, and he puts himself out there and he says whatever he wants, but that's quite literally his job as a columnist. Like, he spent the better part of 25 years being a journalist where he had to report the facts. Like, it was his job to do that. And if you don't do that, you, one, lose your credibility, and two, you lose your job. But now, as a columnist, that's like journalism 101. A journalist reports the facts. A columnist gives his or her opinion. Like, that's literally what a columnist is. And so many people get upset, like, oh, he just gets on there and says whatever he wants. Yeah, because it's entertainment and it sells. Like, you turn on the TV to hear what crazy thing he has to say and say what you want, but that is his job. Like, that is what he's paid to do. But the same way that I'm saying I've paid my dues and going to journalism school and still going on this professional journey, he's paid his dues as a journalist. He knows how that goes. He knows what the fine line is between giving his opinion, when he needs to pull back, when he keeps a source, off of the air, when he says something that maybe will bring light, will shed more light on a situation. Like, all of those things matter. So I think having the best of both worlds puts you in a very unique position where you understand both sides of it and you can shed light on both. So there's a happy medium.
Where that versatility comes into play. You're able to do so many different jobs and wear many different hats, but you keep that professionalism and you know the role. It goes even just in team sports. You know your specific role, and it plays down the road, and it can also help you win and be successful. And talking about success, 2018 Northwestern, you guys were able to get to the Big Ten championship game. Clayton Thorson was your quarterback. Isaiah Bowser over there from Sydney, Ohio, was running the football really well in the last 8 to 10 games of the season. Your offensive line up there, you guys were paving the way, built for tough. We're not sponsored, but man, 2018, man, what was that season like? And you guys got all the way back to your hometown of Indianapolis where you played some championship games. What was that whole entire feeling like in that season overall?
Man, it was unbelievable because we had this like unique kind of identity and fabric about us that in 2016, like, we go 6-6 on the season, coming off a year in 2015 where we won 10 games. And I was a true freshman in that season. And then we follow up the next year and it's like, we're 6-6. Like, we barely make it to a bowl game. And it was almost like there was an identity switch in bowl preparation, getting ready for Pitt, where we kind of really took it to Pitt when they had James Conner, when they had Nathan Peterman, where they had some dudes on that team. And we won convincingly. And the score doesn't show it, but we dominated them for pretty much the entire game. Then fast forward to 2017, up and down year, lost a little bit early, got some things rolling. And then in 2018, it was pretty similar. We actually had some really bad losses early in that year. We lost to Akron. We lost to Western Michigan. No, that was 2015. We lost to another team that we had no business losing to in that 2018 season. And I just remember being like, wow, like, we really just lost in that type of fashion. And the next thing you know, we won like 8 out of 9 to finish the year, like a crazy way to finish the season. And the next thing you know, we're on the road at Iowa, and Ben Skoranek has a crazy back of the end zone type of catch where he's diving for the ball. It hits his arm and he figures out a way to pin it to his body as he's hitting the ground. And that clinches our berth to the Big Ten championship game. I mean, couldn't have wrote a better story that season, and to play against Ohio State. But then for me personally to come back home, I mean, I think I had like 50 to 60 people in the crowd, and could have been more, if we counted the people that were having watch parties and all that other good stuff. So it was just unbelievable, a year that we fought so much adversity. And I love that year because even through all of the adversity, we still found a way to just keep plugging along. Even when it felt like we were dead in the water, we just kept plugging along. So that was a fun year to come back home, be in front of the home crowd, to play in Lucas Oil like I had done a few times in high school, going back to my Cathedral days, but doing on a different stage was really cool.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, and again, you're talking about early season. If, obviously you don't want to start off in too big of a hole where you can't really climb yourself out of it, but it's not about how you start. It's how you finish things off, and being able to get to that point and go to a Big Ten championship game is big. I know obviously 2 years later, Northwestern was able to make it back and play Ohio State again and during the COVID season. But, so we've seen that matchup a couple of times. But and all that. But I do have to say, I know we started off the show talking about the offensive line love, which, trust me, I love offensive line. It's where you win the game, the line of scrimmage on both sides. It's the offensive line versus the defensive line. It's a grudge match. Who's best five going up against the best 3, 4, or 5 up there. But I have to say, is there a common misconception about the offensive line?
There is.
Okay.
I mean, that's a great question, because a lot of people think offensive linemen are just big guys that stand in front of people and get in their way and, are not seen once the play is over. But I mean, when you talk about communication, when you talk about 5 guys operating on the same type of frequency every single play, like truly when you get down into the nitty-gritty of football and offensive line play, it's very similar to defensive back. And when I say that, defensive back, the impact of defensive back is felt more, because if a defensive back, gets caught looking in the wrong area, that's a touchdown. For offensive line, if you get caught with your hands in the wrong place, the quarterback's getting killed, and it could be a sack fumble. It could be a catastrophic play, but they're very similar in that way, where you're playing in space. You have a guy running at you as you're going backwards. And that's why I think when you look at the draft, guys that can do it and make it look easy, those are the ones that get paid a lot of money, because it's a very unnatural thing to do, to have somebody literally running full speed at you. Just think about yourself right now as Chase. Think about if Myles Garrett lined up in front of you and he was just in a full-on sprint. You have to stay in. you know what I mean? Like it's
Exactly.
that type of like special like talent and force and discipline and all the words you could use in the dictionary that takes to be crazy enough to even play that position, and then say, okay, I'm going to be crazy enough to then go master it and be as good as I can be. Like, those are some special dudes. Same way with DB, to flip your hips and to break on the ball, and, to have enough pride to break on things that you maybe shouldn't have broke on and make special plays. Like, it takes a special type of person. And it also, for all those DBs out there, it takes a certain level of delusion too, because you can't think about when you get beat, so you got to go in saying nobody's ever cooked me. And I respect it. Like, you have to have that type of confidence, but there is a misconception, because we are athletes as offensive linemen as well. And we have to see the game in a different type of way, but we have to know the game just as well as anybody else. Especially when we're on the field, third down situations, just picking up on different tendencies when you're getting in your film prep, getting ready for the next week, and so forth and so on. So it's more to it than just being physical and trying to move a guy off a spot. It's a lot that goes into it. And I think the big guys need more love.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how you win games up front, but it's as simple as that. And I'm not trying to be a guy that, call stuff into playbooks or as the Connor Stallions or whatever you want to call it. All right. But are there any like crazy play calls or anything that you can remember your offensive coordinator saying, and then you can kind of pinpoint like, okay, this is what the protection is, or like, oh, like how does, like, I know obviously some offenses are built differently when it comes to the verbiage and everything else of this is where the pass protection is. These are the route concepts, the ordering of things. Like, how interesting is that when it comes to learning a new play caller?
I'll be honest, like, the most unique experience that I've had is playing underneath June Jones in the XFL in 2023. And I say that because the offense was literally whatever came to June's mind. Like, if he saw something in the middle of a game, he would literally adopt it, and we would do it like the next series. So if you go back, anybody watching, you go back and watch the run and shoot offense, like June's whole thing was wide receivers are going to run with vertical threats every single play. And then on the fly, whatever coverage you get, you're literally going to break off into your route, whether it be a dig or a post, or you keep running because it's man and you can just run past the guy, a deep comeback, a shallow cross. Obviously, right off the bat, that would have to be more so called, and it's not full speed. But a lot of times in that offense, everything was attacked with vertical threats. And his idea was, we're going to open up the run with the pass, which is opposite of how a lot of people think. Like, if you open up the pass with the run, but he thought about it opposite. And when you really get into it and you have a set of receivers that can really attack defenses with speed, he's exactly right. As soon as you start throwing it over the top of people's heads, the run lanes start to open up. And that's why he had so many great rushers like he did, and so many quarterbacks that could throw for thousands and thousands of yards, because he had, now you got to have a lot of you have to have a lot of wide receivers, because everybody is running full speed every single play. And so to do that throughout the course of a game, it's borderline impossible. So you need some guys that can, take a blow and then get in there and do the same thing. But it was very unique. Like we got a playbook with a few plays in it, but like there wasn't a game plan game to game that we could look at. Like when you go into a game, you have the plays that you're going to run. This is how we're going to attack them. These are the plays we're going to run. This is the formations, blah, 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 blah. There was none of that with June. You know why? Because it was all right here. He had it all in his mind of what he wanted to do. And credit to him. That year we played 11 games and we won 7. So we went 7-4 in a spring football season, where to win 7 games is tough. You know what I mean? Like to do that, especially when the group first gets together. So he's a special type of guy. He's somebody that does it in an unconventional sense. And I had never seen anything like it. And then the pass protection too was, it was a pop type of pass protection. So we were never traditionally staying on the line of scrimmage. Like if you had an open gap, you were popping out to the backside, because every protection had to take care of if they brought 6 or 7, which was 1 or 2 more than you had staying back in protection. So it was very unorthodox, but it was effective. But that's probably the one I can speak to that defies all that you think about when it comes to play calling, in football.
I can say this pretty safely. This is not the last time we're going to talk about play calling, pass protection, and stuff like that. I love I love the versatility of all of this stuff. So it's awesome to see. And then you're talking about the UFL. So you've played in there now 3 seasons, correct?
This was my 4th season that I just played in. Yep. Yes, sir. Okay.
4. So for those that, don't really watch the UFL a whole lot, just what does a typical week look like in UFL preparation before a game on Saturday or Sunday?
I mean, for anybody that follows along, an NFL schedule when you're watching on TV, it's really pretty similar. If you come into a week, we'll just take the last week of the season that we had before we played Birmingham. We played on a Sunday, and the week before we played on a Saturday. So we got a few days off until we started our preparation. So usually preparation takes place about 5 days before the game. You have 3 practices, and then the 4th day is a travel day, and then obviously the 5th day is game day. So the first 2 days of practice are usually like your harder practices, where you're probably going to be in pads for one of them, but you're going to do a lot more plays than you normally would on that 3rd day. And so you come in, usually do 1st and 2nd down, maybe some 3rd downs on the 1st day. And then obviously you do your pass stuff that you have that coincides with that as well. Then your 2nd day is going to be more short yardage, and then you're going to get in the red zone and goal line. And then your 3rd day of preparation, that's the one day everybody looks forward to. That's the Fast Friday. That's where, you wear some type of hats attire. Guys got their hats on backwards, maybe in turf shoes, but it's a mental day. Everybody's in the right place. You're practicing like a pro, and, practicing like a pro is, hey, we're mentally engaged at 100%, but the physical is like gone. That's what the first 2 days were for. And so just being in the right place, physically, you're going to make a move, but you're not trying to beat anybody. You're going to get to your spot. If you're running a twist, if you're D-line, you're going to show on film that, hey, we still got to our aiming points on this twist, but we're not going to physically run it just to be a professional and keep everyone on their feet. And then the day before, we travel, get on the plane, fly to the game, get in town, have some meetings, enjoy a nice dinner the night before the game, usually with the guys. And then you're just kind of hanging out, doing whatever you do to kind of lock in for the game the next day. And then, what you do after that is really determined on, hey, what time do we play? If it's an early game, guys are, packing it in pretty early. If not, then, we'll sit and hang out, maybe watch a game if it's on, watch the other UFL games if they're on, and then wake up the next day and it's time to go. So pretty standard. But as the season goes on, you see teams get a little bit more downtime just to give yourself time to recover. And then when you get into those work days, that the physicality is kind of dialed down, because now it's about saving guys for the game, not so much trying to get everybody, riled up because it's the beginning of the season. So that's usually the template that you see, in a typical week for a UFL team.
Yeah, I mean, once you get to the higher levels, a lot of teams do the same thing, and it's those minute details of throughout the week and even in the game, how one or two plays can make a difference in wins and losses in the UFL, NFL, college football, football in general. But
that's exactly right.
That's how it is, man. But before we get on out of here, so you're doing a lot of off-season work for yourself and also helping out other individuals in the Indianapolis area when it comes to offensive line training and just other training in general. But do you want to take a second to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, I was actually just talking to a lady before I got on this. I trained her son for the first time on Monday, and she asked me, how did you get here? Like, how did this all come about? And honestly, it really came about because when I came back after my season in 23, I said, hey, I really want to give back. And I thought I wanted it to be via a camp, via some type of football camp, and put on a one-time thing and deposit a whole bunch of knowledge. But that's very fleeting. Like, it happens once and then you kind of don't do it again until the next year. But I wanted it to be more personal. And so I was able to get with the right people, and they were like, hey, just train these kids and, see where it goes. And I instantly loved it. Like, it was like the first time I called a game, and I said, oh, wow. I like, because for so long I wanted to be in front of the camera via a TV show. Then I called a game and I said, this is exactly where I need to be, just because you have more of a platform to not just show your knowledge, but to help somebody else learn the game if they knew nothing about the sport. And that's the thing that I take to heart the most. And the same thing in football. Like, I take all ages. Obviously, I want you to be serious about it. But if you have a work ethic, I want to work with you, because offensive line, as I've already stated, is a very unnatural position. And it's not taught with the reverence that it needs all the time. Because, like I said, so many people are like, oh, you're a big guy, just go, pile drive this guy and you'll be just fine. And it's like, there's so much more that goes into it. And so what I'm really trying to do is shorten the learning curve for these guys by the time they get to college. So if I'm teaching a guy in middle school how to block as a professional, how much further along is he going to be once he gets to college? Like, he's not going to have to worry about learning the technique. He's just going to have to worry about physically putting on the weight and getting in a position ready to play. And so then it won't be a way of like, hey, we have to teach you this now, and then we have to reteach it again so it sticks with you. It's already going to be a habit. And so that's what I'm really at and what I'm trying to attack. Like, if I can just help the next generation of offensive linemen be better, that's what it's all about. So that's why for me, there's no social media for it. There's no, hey, go to this page. Hey, just reach out to me. Social media, if you have my number, call me and let's get to the work, because I'm not doing it to get recognized on social media. I'm doing it because I really want kids to get better at the position. So when they go back to their schools, their coaches are like, man, what have you been doing? And then they have an opportunity to go and play at the next level. So an example I'll give you, a kid I've been working with for the last couple of years, he recently just got an opportunity to go play at Ohio Wesleyan. And a couple of years ago, I don't know if football was even in the picture for him in that way. I think high school was just the gist of it. But I told him, like, hey, I want you to work with me because I want you to see that you have the potential to do it, and you just need someone to help you bring it out. And it's literally like, as soon as I got the message the other day, it was the best thing ever, because he put in the work, he put in the time, and now to him, his life has completely changed. And I've done nothing. He's done all the work, and that's the beautiful thing about it. And that's what I just want to help kids realize more and more by the day.
I can tell this is not the last time I'm going to have Jared on this podcast, because this is probably one of my favorite episodes of all time. But man, I mean, just all around, just helping people out and trying to understand the game of football, whether it be from a media standpoint, an actual playing standpoint, a teaching standpoint, just sports in general, it unites everybody. And it's been really unique just to hear your story and how everything's trying to come forward. This is not the last time that anybody's going to hear from you, man. I'm saying that right now, but I appreciate your time and everything. And, if you guys, are watching this far, please like, subscribe, comment. We appreciate all support. We'll see you guys next time on the Cut